Hey everyone, it's Steve from Business Insider. Got a bunch of tech headlines to go over today, but the first thing I want to go over is something my colleague Kif Leswing wrote about Trump's import tariff policy from China and how that could affect Apple products and a slew of other tech companies who make products there. Of course, Trump's policies are all over the place. We don't know where he stands on a lot of things, but one thing he has repeatedly said is he wants to impose heavy tariffs on goods manufactured in China and imported into the US. Now that's a lot of things. That includes everything from iPhones to Samsung phones, Fitbits, you name it. A lot of the electronics we use here in the United States are designed and developed here, but then actually manufactured overseas at facilities like Foxconn in Shenzhen, China, and just a bunch of other places. The reasoning behind this is to protect manufacturing here in the US. The idea is if these tariffs are imposed on companies producing things overseas, they'll be incentivized to start making things here. That is unlikely to happen, despite the promises we've heard from Trump throughout the campaign. The idea he promised to force Apple to start making their products here in the United States again. We're simply not equipped for such a thing. In fact, the most likely scenario to come out of this is increased costs for a lot of the electronic goods you buy that are manufactured overseas. So let's dive into specifics here. Trump has proposed a 45% tariff on imported goods coming from China. Keep in mind that's not 45% of the retail cost of the iPhone, which starts at $650. Instead, that's the wholesale cost of what it costs Apple to ship these goods, in bulk. A 45% tariff is almost guaranteed not to make it through Congress. If a tariff is enforced, the experts my colleague spoke to think it's more likely to be like 15%. And even still, with that lower tariff at 15%, that could increase the cost of the iPhone and other electronics being imported. Estimates are all over the place, but it could be anywhere between $50 and $97 on the cost of an iPhone, for example. And I just want to be clear here, it's not just iPhones. This is all goods imported from China, which is most of the stuff you buy. If you're watching me on an iPhone, if you're watching me on an Android phone, if you're watching me on a Dell computer, if you're watching me on anything with a screen, basically, these things are built in China for the most part. And that means they're going to be taxed heavily when they come in. That doesn't mean a magic switch is going to be flipped and all of a sudden these products are going to start being made here in the US. What it likely means is you're going to have to pay more for those products because that tax is coming in. Apple doesn't have much of an incentive to start manufacturing things here in the US. They might look to other countries like Brazil or India, where those tariffs won't be. It's still a lot cheaper to produce products there. So again, I'm just using the iPhone as an example here, but a $650 iPhone under these policies can turn into a $700 iPhone, or even close to a $750 iPhone. And keep in mind, those are the unsubsidized prices. Those aren't the prices you get like through deals through a carrier. This is if you buy the phone unlocked, but it will affect those subsidized prices as well. So this is something to really look at. Tariffs, on one hand, you can argue that it incentivizes companies to build their products here in the United States. On the other hand, we're not equipped to build those kind of products. It's a lot more expensive to build those products here. And the result will be, when those things do get imported, more costs for you. That means you're going to have to likely spend a lot more money on the products you buy every day, on the holiday gifts you buy. Again, anything with a screen or a computer chip inside of it tends to be built in China and overseas. So with a tariff imposed by a Trump administration, expect a lot of those the prices to go up. So that's what that means. It's not. It's just simple economics. I know a lot of people here are saying this isn't going to happen, but that is what happens. Apple can't just all of a sudden build a factory here in the United States and start making its iPhones here, even though that's what Trump might have led you to believe. It's a longer process than that. So again, a tariff results in higher prices and could push these companies to start looking to countries other than China to start manufacturing. Unlikely it's going to be the U.S. Those jobs here in the U.S. They can't. They're just much more expensive, especially at that scale. Chinese workers are a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper to pay Foxconn, which is the big manufacturer of not just the iPhone, but a lot of electronics. It's a lot cheaper to outsource those jobs over there. So what that would mean, let's say he does get these tariffs through, spending a lot more on the electronics you buy a lot. That's it for that discussion. I'm going to move on in a second, but first I want to take a quick break for about 30 seconds, and I got a bunch of other tech headlines to go over, including Snapchat's big IPO, which it's secretly filed for. So just stick with us. I'll be back in about 30 seconds. All right, we're back. I just talked about, what tariffs proposed by the Trump administration could mean for the electronics you buy. Bottom line, more expensive. If you missed that discussion, I'm going to post this video straight to our Facebook page, and you can go back and watch it. But I want to move on to some other tech headlines. The big one that came out yesterday afternoon is Snapchat's IPO. Snapchat secretly filed to go public. Probably about 2 weeks ago, they said they did do it. Our sources say it did happen before the election took place. This is kind of an indicator that Snapchat wasn't worried about who won the presidency. It was going to go ahead with its IPO anyway. And this IPO is likely to take place early next year. They're shooting for March, but it could even take place in the first half of the year, so before June. And it looks like they're going to shoot for a $25 billion valuation in this IPO. Right now, Snapchat and the private markets, as it was fundraising, it was valued at approximately $20 billion, so not a big pop here. And it's unclear, again, until we get our hands on the S1 about a week or two before this IPO actually happens. It's unclear how much revenue Snapchat is making and how much projected revenue it wants to make going into next year. Some reports are out there. They're a little bit all over the place. We've heard everything from here in 2016, they've made 350 to 400 million in ad revenue. Some reports are saying that could go up to 1 billion in ad revenue next year. So that sounds like a healthy business. They're also Snapchat is also expanding into other categories as well. This last week, the new spectacles started going on sale in various locations. It's the first time they've ventured out from the core app and trying a new product. So yeah, that's what is going on with Snapchat. We're not going to know too much again until they publicly file that S1, which they don't have to do until closer to when they become a public company. That's under the Jobs Act that was passed several years ago. Small companies with less than $1 billion revenue and so many employees don't have to publicly file until they get close to the IPO. It's the so-called quiet period where they can keep those things private. Let's move on. Google came out with a really cool app yesterday called Google Photo Scan. So what this does is, if you're a Google Photos user like me, it's great if you have a digital camera, if you're using your smartphone camera. But for your old photos, there's no good way to upload those to Google Photos. What this does is it lets you snap a picture of your physical photos and upload them to Google Photos. But it does it in a clever way. If you've ever tried to take a picture of a physical photo, sometimes there's glare, sometimes it just crops weird. This uses a lot of intelligence in the software to take out the glare, to take out and crop it properly, and even tag the people in the photos just like it does in Google Photos. Really clever, great way to digitize your physical photos, way better than a scanner or storing them in a shoebox or something. I don't have too many physical photos. I haven't really tried it, but it seems like an impressive app if it works as advertised. Another little bit of Apple news here. iFixit, the company that tears down just all kinds of gadgets, finally tore down the new MacBook Pro. That's the one I was talking about earlier this week with the touch bar. And a little funny thing there, the speaker grills on the side don't actually do anything. They're just there for cosmetics to make everything look symmetrical. This is the second Apple product this year that has a fake speaker grill. The iPhone 7, the speaker grill on the left is just there for looks. Pretty silly, considering the MacBook Air and some other MacBooks just don't have speaker grills. It's kind of interesting why Apple would put speaker grills on there. So that a lot of people are making fun of Apple for that. And then the other thing is iFixit found that the MacBook Pro isn't very upgradable, meaning a lot of the components in there are just stuck in there. You can't, especially the solid state drive, which you use to store data on, is just soldered in there. So if you want to upgrade memory, if you want to upgrade storage, you're out of luck. So please, you got to buy what you buy is what you get for the life of your device. And then the final thing I want to talk about, a little bit more political here. Twitter this week started deleting and suspending accounts from prominent people in the alt-right movement. That includes Richard Spencer, Pax Dickinson, and some others. There's a lot of controversy around this, of course. Twitter just rolled out some anti-abuse tools, and now it's starting to ban these alt-right accounts, even some that don't necessarily abuse or troll people. These accounts are still being taken off the network, which is kind of, I have mixed reactions to this. If you're not being abusive, even if you hold some very strange political views, I don't see why you should be taken off Twitter. That's the case with Richard Spencer. He has some interesting alt-right views, but he hasn't really trolled or abused anyone. Other people who have been taken off have been known to troll or abuse, so maybe it is worth taking them off the network. So I see this as Twitter still doesn't really know how to combat this abuse problem. They're just going after high-profile people, maybe to set an example. I don't know. But this is going to continue to be an issue for Twitter for a while until they really figure it out. What they did this week is a first step, but not a big enough step. Great, so that's all I really wanted to go over today. I'll be back at the same time tomorrow with more tech news. Thanks.